evening and good to have you with us. So this edition of the Urban Debate tonight, we bring to your attention some of the key responses of the central government to key questions on issues that matter to you and me in the parliament. The most pressing issues, one could actually say, in the country right now. The responses are actually not different from each other. Over 13 key issues that our research team has been able to put together, 13 key questions. And largely, the wording may change here and there, basis a technicality, but essentially the response from the government has been no response, that they don't have data available. Let me actually give you some insights into these questions. One of them, of course, made headlines just a few days ago. The question that was about how many COVID patients died due to oxygen shortage in the second wave. The answer was no data available from the states. States haven't told us about any deaths due to oxygen shortage. To the question about how many protesting farmers have died since 2020, farmers who've been protesting at the Delhi borders now for over 8 months, the answer was no data available. To the question of how many deaths due to manual scavenging, the answer was no deaths have taken place due to manual scavenging. And there's a technicality there because people are dying while cleaning sewers and septic tanks. No better than the legal definition of manual scavenging, but the centre doesn't consider it to be the same. To the question about how many people have died due to air pollution, the response was, well, no data because there is no direct correlation in terms of number of deaths and air pollution. To the question of how many people lost their jobs in the second wave, the answer was no data available. To the question on the data being prepared for migrant workers, the answer was no data available yet. To the question of how many hospital beds are there in government hospitals in our country, a question one would think is extremely important during times of a pandemic, the answer was no information right now. There is no central available database. To the question on amount of black money in Swiss bank in the last 10 years, no data available. To the question about crypto exchanges, what information have we collected and is there any link to drug money and money laundering, it said no data collected. To the question on expenditure on office space rented by the government, no data available. How many witnesses have been killed or turned hostile in cases across the country? Don't know. This is at a time when a country is going through an extremely tough time, at a time when there is a pandemic, when the economy is in the dumps, job losses are high, prices of commodities and fuel are high, people are unsure about their future. This is at a time when transparency and accountability has to be of the highest level, and so is good governance. But one wonders, how do we implement and bring about good governance and transparency and accountability when we keep saying we don't have the data? I'll tell you why it's important for the government to have this data if they don't, if they haven't bothered to find out yet, or if it is lying in some corner, not categorized, not labeled in the correct manner as the question was asked. The government needs to know this and tell us this because it is important for policy planning and decision making. The government needs to understand the extent of a problem, be it the economy or COVID or anything else, because if you don't understand the problem, you can't really find a solution. The government needs to know the data so they can create targeted solutions, so they know what needs priority and when, at what pace and what scale. It is important because that's what transparent governments do. It is also important so we know how your policies are working. It is important so you know, as the government, how your policies are working. Tonight, this is the big debate. Can the government continue to give us no data available as an answer for these key issues? It's not to say that you badly managed all these aspects, but it's to say we don't know because you don't know. Let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining us on this conversation. Sarthi Acharya, economist and former chief technical advisor at UNDP. So Ravi Srivastava, professor of economics, JNU, joins us this evening. Professor Gaurav Vallabh, national spokesperson for the Congress Party. Dr. Sameer Kagalkar, spokesperson for the BJP. Sujata Rao, former Health Secretary, also joining us this evening. Thank you so much to all of you for joining me on this conversation. Let me actually start off with Sujata Rao. Sujata Rao, in times of a pandemic, I would think that it's all the more important that we know what's our status of healthcare infrastructure, of essential supplies, oxygen and drugs. Because if we don't, then how are we planning for the future?
Of course, as you said rightly, that we need to have data because that's the only way you can plan. It's absolutely central requirement for any good management. But I don't believe that the government doesn't have this data. I'm sorry. It is lying where, and the government, I remember, there would be no question of us telling or giving an assurance to the parliament saying we will collect the data and give it to you. Every effort would be made, even till midnight, to see that the state governments give us the data that is required for the parliament. Shows, to my mind, it seems to me, three things. One is they don't care, or two, they don't want to take the responsibility for the data that they've given and be quoted to say why did it happen and the supplementary questions that might arise. And three, they have contempt for the parliament. They don't think they need to be accountable to the parliament because it's very hard work to get the data from the state. It is a lot of effort. And that effort used to be made in the past. And I'm surprised that they haven't made it today because I don't believe that the data of the number of died for one people trying to pollution is not available with the Ministry of Health. I disagree. And data is absolutely crucial, as I said, for planning.
I want to, I have a follow-up question to ask you because you're right, this data may be available somewhere. A lot of the answers, if you read them, sound extremely bureaucratic to me. I'm sorry to use this term in such a manner, but it's wordplay and it's playing on technicalities to say, oh, it's not centrally maintained. Oh, did you mean manual scavenging? Because, sewer deaths may be different, but manual scavenging is not exactly that, so we're not going to recognize it. But does that happen, Sujata Rao, that, the question has gone to a specific official in the government department? He knows that in his files it's not there, and so this answer has just been sent back without bothering to know the issue.
No, Tanvi, see, in terms of oxygen, for example, let me just take example. There is, in the classification of deaths, there is nothing called death by oxygen. It's like saying death due to lack of paracetamol. You don't say that. You don't say it for want of death. There's no category like that. And that is the reason why in many cases, because they say, oh, heart stop ho gaya and it's a cardiac. Maybe there is some other underlying case. So there is a problem in terms of classifying these deaths due to accident. So they're taking a cover, the technicality. So technically, they're correct. There are no deaths due to oxygen. You don't die due to lack of oxygen. But to be very honest, they should say while there is no death in accordance with the way in which we classify cause of death, but there are 146 deaths that took place for want of timely treatment or timely oxygen availability or some clarification with a caveat should have been given to really be able to say how seriously they took situation which had appalled the whole country. So, this kind of acceptance of a certain situation is very important for us to bring in the corrective measures. But if you just live in denial and just refuse to accept and recognize that there is a problem like this, then you can never go forward. So, taking to a technicality is okay. That's a very bureaucratic way of saying. The way they say health is a state subject. Okay, health is a state subject, but the central government has as much a responsibility because it's a concurrent subject, the infectious disease control. But you can't just simply deny any responsibility by saying it's a health is a state subject. You have to get the material from the states. It's true that the data is the central government, it is with the state government, but you have to make the effort to ring up the states and get the data. We did it. And so I don't see why today they cannot do it.
Right. No, absolutely. In fact, on that point, let me bring in Ravi Srivastava as well before I get Dr. Kagalkar to respond. Mr. Srivastava, I mean, to say that, health or even agriculture or something else is a state subject would also be misleading in a certain way, because so is law and order. And so NCRB collects all of this data. That also takes it from every state and puts it together and publishes it every year. Not just on law and order and crime, NCRB also gives us data on a number of farmer suicides every year, which they collect from every state and give it. So if the government wants, they can also do it for every other topic, Mr. Srivastava.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. First of all, Tanvi, you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head by saying that good data is key to good governance and good policy making. But of course, if you don't want good data, it could be because you don't care, or because good data doesn't fit the kind of narrative that you've already built or you want to build. Now, that can be absolutely fatal to good policy making and to good governance, even if it serves some short-term purpose. And this is exactly what we are saying. Government hiding behind this facade of technicalities and saying that it does not have data, either because it did not, as Dr. Rao correctly pointed out, bother to recategorize, causes of death on very important issues like, lack of oxygen causing, and we know from first-hand visual evidence that people were dying because of shortage of oxygen outside hospitals. Inside hospitals were sending out SOS all the time, not only from one state, but from several states. So this was the state of affairs. But if the government doesn't care, then it will not even bother to send out a directive. And, not only the usual instruments that Dr. Rao talked about, under which the center routinely collects data from states. Otherwise, no central data would be possible to compile. Data on agriculture used all the time for calculation of GDP, for example, or so many other aspects. It will just not be possible to compile it. Where data doesn't exist, the center can always mandate surveys to collect the necessary data through its own statistical collection agencies. So there is absolutely this is just hiding behind a facade of technicality and saying that there is no data on farmers' deaths, who are sitting out at the borders of Delhi, or there is that no data from, shortage of oxygen, and many other crucial questions that you outlined, which is, by the way, a very small subset of the questions on which it has no data. The migrants issue, where you don't have data, either you commission timely surveys or you make the best possible estimates which are there. But in many of these cases, you'll find the data was systematically, I would say, frankly, obstructed.
Yes.
The 2011 migration census data, the complete tables have not been published till now and will never be published. This has never happened before, over successive censuses.
Okay, no, you're right. And in fact, we're going to go to some of the other examples as well. Like you rightly said, this is just a subset from many questions that are asked in Parliament. We're also just talking about the last 10 days. If I had to give another example, many more will come out outside of the Parliament questions as well. There are issues from poverty to, what you just said, Mr. Srivastava. Those issues also, there is no data available to us right now. But let me ask Dr. Kagalkar, if we don't see this as government's lack of interest in accountability and transparency, then what is it?
Tanvi, it's so rich of people talking about parliamentarians not respecting parliament. People who have to go to the electorate every 5 years in front of them, go ask for votes and come. Unlike a Babu, a career Babu who can enjoy their tenure for 30, 35 years and retire with all the benefits, right? So it is not that as if the government of India, whichever party is there, be it the state or the center, have no respect for parliament or the state assembly. That said, philosophically, is there a need for a data collection in a more proper structured way, which is used for governance? Yes, undoubtedly yes, emphatically yes. Has it been done early in the last 7 years? Yes, emphatically it's been done. What are the number of poor farmers? Who are the poor people who require facility? Who are the people who require a direct benefit to their accounts? How do you get this data? You get this data, you collate it, put them into the Jan Dhan account, make sure that the money goes to them directly. These are completely data driven. It's not something that's been done off the hand, right? It is a process. They understand the value, significance of information collection, data collection through a proper usage of technology. It has been done and it shall continue to be done. But this kind of a mudslinging at the government of India, at the political parties, calling it a narrative building. We are in the midst of a once in a century pandemic. People are dying, people are fighting, and no one is denying of the fact that there is a issue on the ground. If there is an issue on the ground, it is raised in 0 hours, it's raised within and outside of the parliament. The only point is its technicalities once again driven by some of the officers, the same officers who probably hold a moral high ground post-retirement. The point is you need to sort of pick up the data and give it. Yes. What if the state governments come back and say there was no death of oxygen? What do you do that? There are technicalities
No, so
undoubtedly.
Dr.
Yes.
Kagalkar, I don't know what mudslinging are you referring to, because so far I've only stated the facts here, the facts of 13 questions and the answers of the government. There is no mudslinging. The fact is that the government has said we don't know.
You have 300 plus questions. It's not just about only 30 questions.
These questions are equally important. Why should the government not have data for any of these issues?
It is the data not available, not reported by the state. It's not reported by the state.
Why have you not sought it from the states like you seek every other data as far as the NCRB database is concerned?
And I reiterate the fact that yes, there needs to be a process wherein data, each and every data needs to be collected. Once again, of course, now we cross the fence and say people might come back when the Aadhaar was made mandatory for all benefits. There is a privacy issue. Fair enough. That's a valid argument as well. But at the same time, philosophically, if you ask me if the data needs to be collected across all activities in the governmental engagement, completely in agreement with it.
Okay.
And there has been action and there will continue to be action. The only thing I request very strongly and take reservations is mudslinging at the political system by saying that they don't care for the parliament. No one would care more for the parliament than the parliamentarians. Let's make it abundantly very clear.
I am absolutely 100% in disagreement with you on that comment. Let's just make it very clear. Parliamentarians have not shown any indication of this amazing respect for the house itself that you're talking about. Even now, for the last 10 days, Parliament hasn't functioned. When it has functioned and bills have been passed, even your party members have not been sitting inside, let alone the opposition. Bills have been picked up, discussed and passed in flat 13 minutes. So please don't tell me that nobody more than the MPs respect the parliament, because 100% I will disagree with you on that.
Then it's something that you can probably paint the same brush with each and every profession, each and every domain. I mean, let's not bring into a couple of instances and try to...
But the parliamentarians are accountable for their job, and the government is accountable for its job because we voted for you and put you there. And so you are going to be accountable to us. There are no two ways about it. And if you are not going to, then it is problematic. Sujata Rao wanted to respond. I have two more panelists to go to. Yes, Sujata Rao.
I want to tell Mr. Kagalkar that it's not a question of high moral ground. I have served the government for 34 years, and I know that I would never have dared to give such a reply saying we don't know how many migrants there are in our country or how many deaths took place due to lack of oxygen. When Karnataka, we had 23 deaths that came in the newspaper. When in Delhi itself, we had Gangaram and all those hospitals declaring that for want of shortage of deaths, this took place. So then what you do is, you may not have complete information, but you give whatever information you have and give an assurance to the parliament saying, as per information available, this is the situation, and we will submit the detailed information later on. And that becomes an assurance, and then you write to the governments and get it and give it over time. But to just simply say, we have no data, is unacceptable reply given to a parliament, which would never have happened a few years ago. Question doesn't arise.
Well, let me bring in Professor Gaurav Vallabh, because Professor Vallabh, the BJP's response is that this is just 13 out of the maybe 1,300 questions that are put through. To highlight this is unfair.
Tanvi, NDA means no data available. This is the full form of NDA. And I am putting one by one questions. They have data of how many bulbs were replaced by LED bulbs. That data is with them. They have data that against how many people the Pegasus spyware is used, the entire data is with them. They have data before coming to the power that 80 lakh crore rupees of Indians are there in the Swiss banks in the form of black money. This is the report they had presented. They had the data before announcing a scheme that they are going to create 100 smart cities. Before coming to the power, they had a data that they are going to create 2 crore jobs. Before going for the Bihar election, they had the data that they are going to give a free vaccination in the next 3 months. Before going to the or coming to the power, they had a data that by 2022 they are going to double the farmers' income. But if we ask the data that how many people lost the jobs during the first wave of COVID, they don't have a data. If we ask a question that how many migrants had died migrating from urban centers to their home locations during wave number 1, they are not having the data. If we ask a data that how many people died due to due to absence of oxygen, they don't have the data. Doctors in Delhi had died because there was no oxygen. We had seen hundreds of deaths in Delhi, but the government is not aware that people are dying because of lack of oxygen. Because they will say, why, if you ask the government that why this person had died, they will say, ye saans nahi le pa raha tha. But you have to give the reason, ye saans kyun nahi le pa raha tha. Please appreciate, the first rule of decision making is that you have to appreciate the problem. When you are not going to appreciate the problem, you can't come out with the solution. And to appreciate the gravity of the problem, you require a data.
But Professor
Without
Vallabh,
data, you can't appreciate
let
the
me
problem.
ask you this question. For example, because the farmers' issue is politically extremely important for your party ahead of elections in Punjab, the government has bothered to find out and told us that I think over 200 or 250 farmers have died during these protests, verified by the Punjab government. But has any of your Congress-governed states bothered to find out how many have died due to lack of oxygen during the second wave?
See, if you ask the data from any state government of the Congress party, they will give you the response. The government, unfortunately, and I am repeating, unfortunately, Government of India had not asked this data that how many people died due to lack of oxygen from any state government. And then in last 7 years, we had seen one habit. Anything, if you ask, law and order, state subject. Health, state subject. Vaccination, state subject. Employment, state subject. Then what the hell you are doing in Delhi? Are you there in Delhi just to live in a Modi Mahal? Are you not having any other work? What is your responsibility? I'm asking. Give me your responsibility. From both to please, Sameerji, don't interfere. Let me complete. My question to him that from where you got this 80 lakh crore data before coming to the power? Prime Minister himself mentioned that 80 lakh crore Swiss banko mein pada hai. Kahan hai bhai? Now they are saying we don't have data. Then from where the hell you got
let him.
My question is very simple.
Let him please
My
respond to
question
this. Yes.
Please.
And then I must go across to our fifth panelist. Yes.
Obviously, the fact, why are you sitting in Delhi? Absolutely valid point. You are sitting in Delhi to take care of the national aspects. You are sitting in Delhi to ensure that 40 crore plus people who never had a bank account in all these 30, 40 years earlier get a bank account. So that you have about 8 crore women who have never seen a gas connectivity get a gas connectivity. So that you get 18,000 villages which had never seen an electricity ever get an electricity connection. You get to see that people get their money directly into the account instead of 1 rupee traveling from Delhi to a village and losing 85% of it. Rajiv Gandhi ji said this. By the time it travels from Delhi to a village, 1 rupee becomes 15 paisa. To ensure that these things don't happen, to ensure that there is a transformation at the country level, it happens. Don't expect the government of India to do what a government at the state level or at the city level needs to be doing. These are the kind of questions, Tanvi, you should be asking the mayor of Bangalore, the mayor of Mumbai, and the mayor of Delhi, or whosoever is the head of Delhi. Ask them these questions. What is it that you're doing in Bangalore? It could be anyone across parties. Completely agree. It could be a party A, party B, party C. But the fact is, they are accountable. They are to be doing that. The maximum that the government can tell is encourage them, push them, and probably ask for data. Maharashtra government, for instance, went to the High Court and said there was no death due to lack of oxygen. And now you say, they say that we'll give you the data if you ask for it. Let's have some amount of integrity.
Tanvi, Tanvi?
No. Allow me. I will come back to this point, but I also want to highlight that as far as the oxygen issue is concerned, we've debated it exhaustively. There are many more aspects, 13 key aspects that I raised. Professor Vallabh, let me just go across to Sarthi Acharya. He's patiently waited and heard everybody out. Mr. Acharya, on the issue of economy, there have been many questions on the issue of business. I want to specifically start off with MSMEs. The question about the plight of MSMEs, how many have shut down and what extent of job losses have happened, wasn't just asked this time, it was also asked last year after the first lockdown. Last year, when they said no data available, also didn't lead to any kind of realization that we must find out. The government has announced multiple schemes for MSMEs without knowing what has been the damage to this segment. How does policy making work like that?
Thank you. Let me answer your question with first stating that having interacted with more than one state government, when we post questions to the government saying that, look, we want this data, we don't know this, we don't know that, we've been told, oh, we have this data, or we have that data. But when we ask for more details down, not from the principal secretary, but to the lower level, well, it's a question mark, it's a blank, nobody knows what they have. Come to know who collects these data. And here then we recognize that there's a central government collecting data, there's a state government collecting data, the local self-government collecting data. These are never triangulated. These are never even checked for their quality. And many times these data are not even analyzed. Like in Rajasthan, it's a scandal that for the last 50 years, they're collecting National Sample Survey data at the state level, the state sample as they call it, but they've never analyzed, because what they're saying is, we have money to collect the data, but we don't have money to analyze the data, which I think is a scandal. So that is the first question: who is collecting the data? And we have no clear answer as to who is collecting the data, though who to believe. So we have all kinds of numbers floating around about MSMEs. We have no information at all as to how many MSMEs are there. we have estimates of sample surveys which are conducted once in 10 years or something like that, never earlier than that. Then the other question is, how often do we collect these data? Now, when we are talking about critical human data, these need to be collected at fairly frequent intervals. Like, for instance, how many migrants are there in Delhi? We have no idea. How many Jhugge Jhoppadis are there in Delhi, or for that matter, any major city? We have no idea. But we do have an idea of how the stock market is moving and how much is Ambani buying which company from where. So what are we collecting on? Are we collecting data on people, or are we collecting data on kinds of things where it suits certain political or other interests or the economic interests? And the third is about the quality, as I said. The quality of the data is very much questionable, because at times IMF estimates, Government of India estimates, and private estimates vary by as much as about 20%, 30%. How many people are unemployed in this country? CMI says that we have something like 23% unemployed, which means well above 20 crores of people. Well, the National Sample Survey, 7-8%. Where are these 13% people? So we have very serious problems with respect to who collects the data and who collates the data. Now, let me come to a second point here. Having lectured in a few government institutions, each time, let me name this person because he doesn't, he's no more alive, unfortunately, Dr. Rakesh Pooja. Now, when I talked to him a few years back, I said, Pooja sir, why don't we look at this? He says, you don't understand that in the state governments, we don't have the kinds of capacities which you think they should be having. Why are they not having capacities? How are we recruiting these people when they don't have capacities to run the government? So that's the other question which we have, that we have poor quality data, and then when we have the data, we have nobody who can analyze and interpret these data. So all these kinds of numbers, which I think our friends have been talking about, come about, and debates come about as to who's lying, who's not lying, primarily because we really don't have an authentic way of generating and triangulating these data. And by the way, let me tell you one more thing. It's not that it is impossible to get these data. You ask any political party, they'll tell you how many Jats are there, how many Rajputs are there, how many Chamats are there, how many Meenas are there. They'll tell you everything by village, by gender, by age. They all know it. Yes. It's only that the bureaucrats don't know it.
But let me ask you one question. Would it be unfair to say that this is happening just now, or is this a long systemic problem that we've had, a government systemic issue, irrespective of who's in power?
I think it's both, in the sense that it's a government systemic issue, because I think we've been collecting data on an incremental basis on the British data collecting system, but then once we start getting into these kinds of problems of contradictions, then people start playing one against the other, and it worsens the matter, and it also kind of perpetuates this problem.
Yes. So there is one aspect, which is that it has always been there, a systemic problem where one official level may know something, lower below may know something else. One department doesn't know what the other department may have as information. But the intent to collect it and to share it, that's where the differentiation may come, especially in unprecedented times like pandemic. Let me read out one more list, Dr. Kagalkar, for you. 20 such issues also highlighted in September 2020 by media organizations. This I am quoting now from the News Minutes copy. No data available for the following topics: health workers infected with COVID-19, women who exited the Anganwadi workforce after COVID, girls who dropped out of school since lockdown, sanitation workers who died during lockdown, migrant workers' death, migrant workers' stranded data, job losses of migrant workers. In fact, this is something that the government had assured us that they're going to be building a database. The deadline for that was June. The deadline has come and gone. When asked about it again in this session, the response was the work is still on, we've still not collated it. Again, closure of MSMEs, no data. Number of workers in unorganized sector, number of deaths due to lynching, one of the biggest menace that we've seen in our society in the last couple of few years, lynching for various reasons, including communal hate reasons, no data available. Farmer suicides because of farm debt data, no data available. Data on journalists killed in this country, no data available. Isn't there then a larger problem of wanting to find out, Dr. Kagalkar, whose responsibility is it? In the education ministry, in the education department, should they have not been worried from lockdown 1 that the minute you shut schools, girls will start dropping out, and then Beti Badhao, Bachao, Beti Padhao will go flying out of the window?
Tanvi, 2 points. First, I would want to respond to Prasad Acharya. Absolutely well said that there needs to be a means and mechanism of collecting data, especially real time, right? That said, that is the critical skill set that the government of India, the government of any state needs to keep doing that. Once you have the real-time fluid data availability, the kind of questions that you're asking all points to questions that are dynamically happening, extremely fluid, and unless until you have a real data on hand, there is no way that you get to know what exactly is the number that you're talking about. There could be guesstimates, there could be some amount of estimations, and of course, once again, given by the S Minister, S Prime Minister officers in place, there is no way for a parliamentarian or a politician to go and check back at that. That said, the only solution, as I see, I mean, notwithstanding whatever kind of arguments we might have, whether it started today or yesterday, 10 years ago, the only way where you can bring about this kind of a change in information collection is to ensure that technology is massively deployed. That comes with its own sets and subsets of caveats. That aside, with the technology available, the kind of real-time data, you're asking the number of girl children who dropped out of school. It's not a one-time effort, right? It's not like on the 1st of August, all the girl children drop out of school. It doesn't happen that way. It happens on an ongoing basis. How do you collect it? How do you ensure that it is real-time and updated? This is where some amount of thinking in terms of data collection, leveraging technology becomes the key. That's a completely different set of challenge, which the country must definitely take it on a priority basis. And as you rightly pointed out, quoting a media report, the government is already working on it. There could be a bit of a delay, not update on that. But that said, the government definitely sees of the matter and working on it.
Okay, I will take your point that it's a constant process. You know, for example, girl dropouts is not something that happened overnight and then stopped. But the simple answer there that the government could have given us is that it's gone on for now 15 months of a pandemic. At least for the first 6 months, by now we've managed to collate the data, and this is what it shows. And the process of collection further updated data is still on. We don't even know that. Now, how are we going to plan incentives, Mr. Ravi Srivastava, to bring the girls back to school, or to ensure that they are not, married off at the age of 14, 15 because their parents have no other solution. There is nobody to look out for them while the parents are out working. How will we plan these policies, whether it's the state or the center?
Yeah. Tanvi, I don't think in this particular debate, limited time period, we need to distinguish between different sets of issues.
Right.
One is systemic data issues. and systemic data issues arise on both places, surveys and official data. A lot of what you've asked about is official data. The government, by the way, set up one of the soundest statistical systems in the world after independence. Nothing to do with the British, I'm sorry to say, through the CSO and the NSO. But weaknesses have emerged in it, cracks have emerged in it, and they have widened over the last few years because of systematic efforts to undermine these organizations. Now, the point here is that we are dealing with a specific phase, which is the pandemic phase, which has raised very, very important questions. The question of Anganwadi workers, the question of oxygen deaths, and we are talking here about other issues. For example, sewage and sewer deaths of workers. By the way, the section in the 2013 Act just does talk about the sewage and sewer workers working without appropriate safety technologies, and therefore it is not outside the ambit of that act.
Okay.
Maybe the strict definition of the act.
Yes.
And there was a apparatus created to monitor data, to carry out surveys, and to collect information. So if we confine ourselves to this area, the pandemic-related area, and pin down the failures of the state and the central government in not being able to respond appropriately, even if it is not so accurate data, which may not be possible to collect during the pandemic. The fact of the matter is that they have not only failed, but they have not bothered to collect this data.
Right.
And this relates to a whole sweat of questions. Sewage deaths, sewer deaths have been flagged all over the country. A number of sewage deaths. And to say that we have no data, years after year when they have been flagged, the question of oxygen deaths visually imprinted in all our minds, and to say there is no data on migrant deaths, no data on a whole series of topics, no data on girl childs leaving school or children leaving schools, on what the digital divide is doing to the educational inputs which children receive, on Anganwadi workers who were really the frontline workers. No data on how many suffered, how many left the profession. Why wasn't data collected? And even if it was imperfect information, even if it was not perfect information, it would have guided policy. It is needed to guide policy. And by the way, we are in this phase. This is not like any other phase. This is not like the phase in which Dr. Rao worked. We have the National Disaster Management Act in operation, where the central government is able to micromanage information, micromanage policy, micromanage administration at the sub-district level. At this juncture, we cannot make the excuse the data was not collected because the states did not collect.
Right. In fact, you made a very important distinction, Mr. Ravi Srivastava, which is to say data which is available existing in the system that you need to put together to be able to understand what's going on, and surveys is different. I mean, I would go on to say that, okay, in times of a pandemic, obviously the entire process of these surveys for certain specific issues has also taken a hit. Especially on the economic front. But to say that you don't have data, which by the way was very smartly played, no deaths due to manual scavenging was the answer given this time, because the question specifically, Sujata Rao, was how many deaths due to manual scavenging. Another MP, perhaps somebody who knew how this works and so smartly worded the question 6 months ago and asked how many deaths due to manual scavenging / sewers. And there the government did end up giving the data, categorizing it differently. So I think it's also to, smartly avoid that part, to say, okay, we don't want to, if not directly asked in as many words, we're not going to acknowledge that this exists at this scale of a problem. Sujata Rao.
Let me clarify one thing, Tanvi. That is this, in India, both birth and death registrations are not very strong. Let's that situation. And so our registration of death is still quite much lower than 100%. Not every death is being registered. And there are problems of categorizing them in the categories that the RGR has laid down. And that's the reason why oral autopsies, surveys, large surveys done through oral autopsies do give an insight as to the actual causes of death, as was done once a couple of years ago and so on. So that's the reason why you also find that when journalists went and saw the certificates given, death certificates given since the pandemic broke down, and the number that we are declaring, when there is such a wide discrepancy, it will be assumed that they are due to COVID. But there could be also non-COVID deaths due to heart attack because they could get access to treatment in the hospital. So categorization of deaths during this time is a problem, and I'm not going to deny that. But to say that if we don't have it available, that's not acceptable and that's not true. And I do think that there has to be a lot of effort made to get the data, and it can be obtained. Under no circumstances do I say that it can't be obtained. It can be obtained and it should be obtained. The reason I say this is that today many of us believe that it's not 400,000 people who have died due to COVID, but it could be in the region of 2.5 million, 25 lakhs of people. Now that makes a huge difference in understanding the virus, understanding the pandemic, and how our own policy approaches have to be then recalibrated and focused upon. You see, data is fundamental to pandemic management, and that's why it has nothing to do with politics. It has nothing to do with political beliefs or political fights. That's a separate story. But when it comes to pandemic, which affects everybody, Congress, BJP, fat, thin, tall, women, men, then you have to have complete data to be able to do. Why are all our modeling done in India so much and off the mark? Is because we don't have critical data like, say, the deaths and so on.
Yes.
So it's one area where we have to be very, very clear.
So Professor Vallabh, I know you want to make a point, but let just Dr. Kagalkar respond to this specific, because, okay, Dr. Kagalkar, like Sujata Rao also rightly said, data collection is a problem for births and deaths. So granted that right now what we would have reported in many parts is not the true picture. But what happened in the month of April and May and even before that needs to be understood. What has stopped the government from ordering an audit of all the deaths in the last 3 months? If you really want to know whether 4 lakh people died or 25 lakh died or 40 lakh died because of COVID, what is stopping the government from ordering that national audit now? Dr. Kagalkar, yes.
Yeah. If you look at some of the states, I would say start from Bihar to Madhya Pradesh to Delhi to even Kerala. The states have been relooking at their entire data collection process, revising that, reviewing it, and most of them, if not all, most of them updating it massively, right? Kerala, the model state, updated from close to about by 6,000. That was the gap that was available. At this point in time, each one of us, I understand that there's a national pandemic situation where each one of us need to stand with the entire country as such. The data that comes from the ground up means absolutely the ground up at the village level to the district to the state and therefore to the national level needs to be ensured that it is cleaned, treated, and as full of integrity as much as possible. So while the central government once again might order an audit, at the end of the day, it's the data collection process and the processing that it happens at the state and probably 1-2 levels below. Once you have the data in hand, if there is a need to sort of review certain policies, undoubtedly the government, be it the center, the state, would be doing it as a matter of their duty, both pleasant and unpleasant. That's a duty of the government and they should not shy away from doing it. But the fact is, in the thick of these activities, in the thick of these pandemic, wherein the first and foremost priority needs to be to ensure that challenging this pandemic and coming out of it is more important.
Yes.
Given their own systematic lack of data collection, there are cracks, there are gaps. Now, how do you address it? Definitely it's the point of input collection from experts, from people who matter on the ground, from people who have manned the bureaucratic system, and probably who can give real insight into how it is either given or hidden, so that you have a complete understanding of the whole process and probably drive in technology to ensure real-time updation of the whole data process.
Okay, no, you're right that in pandemics your priority is to get out of it, but to do that you also need to know how many beds you have. You also need to know where the oxygen shortage was most acute that led to loss of lives. And if you don't know that, then how will you plan better for the next time? Similarly, Dr. Sandhya Iyer, good evening to you. Dr. Sandhya Iyer, developmental economist and associate professor at TISS, is joining us in this conversation. Dr. Iyer, similarly, if it's taken us over 15 months and we still don't have any clear direction on number of migrants, migrant laborers, those who may have lost jobs, those who may have died, how are we, going to be able to help them with our welfare schemes or government support schemes?
Yeah, thanks a lot. And actually, I would like to agree with what Professor Ravi Srivastava was saying. It's not about how do we align policies to data. We have to understand that data for its own sake. We need to understand that we need to be estimating them well, and also there are many scattered information sets that are available. The fact of the matter is, in COVID pandemic, when we know that the magnitude is extensive, we need to also understand that data management systems are still managed at the top. We are still following a top-down approach in everything. If we go, as rightly pointed, we have the Directorate of Economics and Statistics at all state level, state governments managing them, but at the district level, we do not have functionaries managing the records at all. So there is also lack of confidence on reporting that information system. And also drawing on this question which you raised earlier about farmer suicides and other issues. These data systems are all managed even today in a very departmental manner. So the public works department will only generate some type of data, but the manual scavenger data will not be available under that particular category. So you have various compartments on which our data systems are being done. So if you ask me how it is going to be arrived at, we certainly need to talk about consolidating a data management structure, which is not only being talking about modernizing MOSPI at the top, but also trying to create a DOSPI at the district and the block level. I think that's the fundamental problem where we are not talking anything at the lower levels. We continue to keep painting the top, and we feel that developing and embellishing the upper level data systems will give us the actual estimates. And we need to develop trust and confidence. The last point, which is equally important, is do we have statisticians at the district and the block levels? If we go to the district offices, our DSOs are just not empowered enough to collate data across 450 schemes and generate that data. In fact, one of the initiatives which we did in Maharashtra, we got to know that there are 1,500 schemes for which they have to maintain data systems, which is absolutely unimaginable, right? So the seriousness of the matter is, one, that we do not have data. Second, who is generating, who is managing, and whether we have the wherewithal. In COVID-19, most departments have been working in half the work. So we do not get information on real-time basis,
Right.
So I think, yeah.
Okay, so how do we fix this, Professor Vallabh? The problem also of many departments and different levels working in their own different silos, and I think not just for data collection, but a lot of other aspects of governance.
Tanvi, I will suggest Mr. Samir that why don't you have one option that instead of writing no data, you should write that data doesn't suit our narrative, so that at least at the global level, our statisticians and our economists and our data collection people should not have a negative name. People should think that data was collected, but government had not shared, because government is writing. If somebody asks how many deaths due to lack of oxygen, you should give an answer, data doesn't suit our narrative. Now, my question to you, and very, very simple question I am asking to Dr. Samir. Dr. Samir, in last 7 years, can you get me for any year that how many jobs were created by Government of India? Can you get me the answer to this question? Can you get me an answer to second question? Because Prime Minister sir used to talk about demographic dividend, that what is the unemployment rate on an official figure for last 7 years? Government had not published even one data. Thanks to CMI, Tanvi, that we are getting some idea that what are our unemployment numbers, in which direction we are moving. Mr. Samir had mentioned that we had a data about the Jan Dhan bank accounts. We had a data about Ujjwala accounts. But Dr. Samir, what is the data about the second refilling of Ujjwala? You don't have that, or neither you were trained to speak about that in the TV shows. I am asking, what is the data about how many are the non-operative bank accounts? How many bank accounts which were opened in Jan Dhan are not operated in last 4 years. You don't have that data. No, or you are not allowed to speak on that. So what I mean to convey, Tanvi, and to all the viewers of Mirror Now, समस्या को आंखें मूंदने से समस्या खत्म नहीं हो सकती. ना रहेगी बांस ना बजेगी बांसुरी is not the right way of dealing with the problem until and unless you are not going to have a serious and a true data about the jobs, about MSMEs, about the COVID deaths. You can't always run or you escape behind the COVID.
Okay.
I am asking before COVID, what was the employment data? Get me that before COVID 2020, how many jobs you had created in 14-15, in 15-16, in 16-17? I had a very simple question. Get me this answer.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dr.
Tanvi.
Kagalkar.
Yeah, Tanvi. So the point is absolutely as given by Professor in his example. What is the number of refill rate? What is the kind of inoperative account? What is the average balance in each account? What is the deposit average? What is the withdrawal average? What is the transfer average? These are exactly the kind of data that are fluid, real time, and that needs to be updated probably on a minute-to-minute kind of a basis. And no two words about it. These needs to be asked. What is the further level of policy making? Are the accounts, bank accounts held by them meaningful to them or not? What is the total amount of funds available there? Is the funds being used, saved, and probably what is the length of term that's been put in the bank account? These are the things that will further lead you to the next level of policy making. Coming back to the question of the kind of jobs created, the kind of jobs lost, right from 1986, if you need to start it off, you need to start off on the same basis, the bureaucratic, systematic manner in which the data is collected, the data is collated. You take some amount of inferences. For example, if the PFO account withdrawn, started, inactive, or not active, these are the kind of things that leads you to an estimate. It may not be the absolute accurate, neither CMI for that matter. It cannot be an accurate number. That said, is there a need for a data accuracy? The government is completely in agreement.
But Dr. Kagalkar, if I may, I think you are only adding and validating the point that Professor Vallabh was making, that the data that suits you is okay and every other data is problematic. That's what it sounds like to me.
We need to work on it. Exactly. We have started, let's say you've given 40 crore accounts. The further next step of data collection needs to be ask the banks how many of them are active, how many of them are inactive, how do you define the activity rate? Is it weekly, is it monthly, is it quarterly? So that you get more data available. The more data available, the more easy it is for you, or probably more effective it is for you to do a policy analysis, right? I mean, I'll give you one more instance, just one small instance as to how data, if it's available, can help you do a policy, irrespective of the party in power. You had a terrible national tragedy in Bhopal. From there, people died at that instance. From there, people died 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, due to instances. Do you have data? That's obviously important, as important as probably a pandemic-driven death. There is a lack of data across parties. There are multiple parties that held governments in Madhya Pradesh, but the lack of data is what if there is one more instance that you need, that is the instance that you can probably bring to the table and say the need for a good, accurate data.
Okay. Okay. I have very less time, but I just want to also remind Professor Vallabh that perhaps where you come from and why you say data that doesn't suit us is not data that will be shared is because that's what the UPA did. In 2011, UPA conducted the census. Religion data at that point of time was delayed and various reasons were given. It was delayed by 2 years. In 2009 and 10, results of the 66 National Sample Survey was released, which contradicted UPA's own self-assessment. And so the government at that point of time turned around and said, oh, this data is wrong, and we're going to do the whole survey again within 2 years. So Professor Vallabh, data politics is not new. It's gone on for a while now, including when your party was in power.
Tanvi, delay is always better than absence. And I asked a very simple question, that is there not an unemployment data for 12-13? Right now itself, Mr. Samir, if you are going to Google down, you will get the government records. But I am asking what is the unemployment number after 2014, you are not having the answer. I am asking how many jobs you had created in any of these 7 years, you are not having the answer. You can't run away by these questions. Prime Minister, sir, used to talk about demographic dividend. You had made that demographic dividend as a demographic disaster. And whenever we are asking question, Bhopal gas, 1960, Rani Lakshmibai, Chhatrapati Shivaji, Corona. What we are asking a simple question, that what is the unemployment rate after 2014 in India for any 1 year?
Okay, before I wrap, I have to very quickly go back to Sarthi Acharya for final answer. Sarthi Acharya, there is not just a problem of acknowledging the data, wanting to find out, but like you were saying, there's also a problem with data collection and accuracy. Is digitization maybe one way of fixing it, and a full-fledged larger unit to be set up that conducts these surveys in a much more progressive manner?
Well, if you ask me this question, I would say yes, digitization is good, but at what level is important. If the data are being collected by let us say gram sevaks and patwaris, and then it goes to the district and starts getting digitized, is no big deal. The important thing is, how is the data generated at the grassroots level? Are we trying to get the right kind of data? Now, if we are able to use digital technology to generate quality data from specific places, combined with, let's say, modern technologies like space, what do you call it, photography, etc., which some people have done. Yes, that's going to be the answer. Presently, there is too much of scatter and too little capacity at the local level. And besides the capacity, too little person power at the local level. And that needs to be fixed.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Completely out of time, but I'm really grateful to all of the panelists for joining us on this conversation. I think it was an extremely constructive conversation. There are many layers to this. Data collection and accuracy has been a problem that we've debated many times, and it continues to be a problem that this government needs to fix. Then comes the part about data collation, which is where this government is massively lagging. If you are interested in formulating policies based on good, exhaustive data, as it should be, then you need to start reaching out to states, various departments, various institutions in collecting that data, centrally putting it together, and then formulating your policies basis that. And the third and the most important part is transparency and accountability. If you have the data, but you don't want to share it, and you find various loopholes and you resort to wordplay and technicalities and bureaucratic language to keep the data away from public domain, that's not transparency, that's not good governance either. Think about it. Thank you for joining us.